Every tiny detail I studied, every NPC whose routine I uncovered, and every experiment I ran culminates in this video. Because no other game has ever achieved what this one has. The level of detail in Red Dead Redemption 2 is beyond anything I've ever seen. NPCs have lives, the world evolves, and nothing feels scripted. For an open world, it's on an entirely different level. Yet for everything the game does right, it's not perfect. With the absurd amount of hours I've poured into it, I believe I'm in a unique position to break down not just what makes Red Dead Redemption 2 an unparalleled experience, but also where it falls short. Because while it's one of the most detailed and immersive open worlds ever created, that doesn't mean it's flawless. And after 1,000 hours, I've seen almost every crack in the foundation. So let's talk about what Red Dead Redemption 2 does best, where it stumbles, and why despite its flaws, it remains one of the most incredible games ever made. At its core, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a game about its characters. There's Dutch van der Linde, the gang's charismatic yet unraveling leader. Hosea Matthews, his intelligent and level-headed second-in-command. Arthur Morgan, the enforcer and protagonist. There's Charles, Javier, Lenny, Sean, Mary Beth, Tilly, John Marston, and countless others, each with their own story, personality, and role in the gang. Gang members have daily routines, chopping wood, preparing meals, or tending to the horses. They can gather for poker, dominoes, or five-finger fillet. Some nights, the camp comes to life. Music, drinking, laughter, and celebration. And beyond that, the optional activities with gang members, homestead robberies, stagecoach holdups, hunting, and fishing let you bond with them outside of missions. The open world is absolutely phenomenal, a breathtaking recreation of 1899 America, filled with incredible beauty and unrivaled interactivity, the reward of exploration. In many cases, the simple act of traversing through the world. Your primary mode of transport is horseback, and over the course of any given playthrough, you'll likely spend 60 plus hours interacting with a singular horse. You must feed, brush, and hitch your horse to fill its course, affecting its health and stamina. Interacting with these systems ties directly to a bonding mechanic that impacts how your horse responds to threats. The difference between your horse staying calm in a firefight versus bucking you off at the first sign of danger often comes down to how much you've invested in that bond. Your horse is in real danger, and when it dies, it's permanent. After spending the bulk of a playthrough growing attached to a singular horse, it hurts just a little more when you inevitably lose it in the most heinous way. Horse animations are some of the most detailed ever put in a game. While standing idle, horses snap at flies, move their ears around, and even defecate. I even noticed bits in their mouth, which interestingly enough, while researching for this video, I learned are actually used to control the horse. In motion, their muscles contract and expand, veins become visible, and their hooves leave imprints in the terrain. It's incredible to watch, but at times, this level of detail can cause slight input lag and an overall feeling of clunky movement, which can result in heinous crashes. It's this attention to detail that makes this world special, things you wouldn't notice on a first or even second playthrough. Because when you really slow down and pay attention, you realize just how much life is packed into this world. Dozens of unique animal interactions, hundreds of thousands of voice lines, and dynamic events all populate the world. If you had told me before playing this game that I would enjoy following strangers around a digital environment to study their behavior. I would assume I have a developmental impairment, yet the world is so layered in detail that it's genuinely fascinating to me when I discover these incredible routines. Townsfolk will eat the entire portion of food on their plate, using a fork and knife to cut it into bite-sized portions. Workers realistically hammer in nails to an under-construction train track. A stagecoach driver may yell at a pedestrian to get out of the road. You may even stumble across an NPC who has learned to play an instrument.
Who taught you how to play?
Go bother somebody else.
Because you should ask for your money back.
Shop owners will remember you after you rob them and will show visible signs of injury in the areas you damaged during the holdup. In Saint Denis, the contrast between rich and poor neighborhoods is distinct. Wealthier districts are marked by clean streets, well-dressed citizens, and an abundance of police patrols. Meanwhile, the slums paint a very different picture. In these areas, you'll find drunkards passed out on the concrete, china pigs freely wandering about, and instead of meeting a pompous socialite in the saloon, you may be asked to clear it of a rat infestation. Outside of the cities and towns scattered throughout the map, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a phenomenal simulation of nature. There is a weather system, which factors humidity, temperature, and location to create volumetric fog and clouds. You can watch as distant clouds roll in, signifying an approaching thunderstorm, and under heavy wind, trees will bend and sway dynamically. But it's not just the environment that reacts realistically, so does the wildlife. Nearly 200 animal species populate the world, each with behavioral patterns modeled after their real-life counterpart. To hunt these animals, you can purchase bait and lures from general stores, where you can actually pick up and interact with every single viable object. When you finally do pull the trigger, accuracy is vital. Miss your shot, and not only is the quality of the pelt damaged, but you will be forced to watch an absolutely heinous animation. Combat is brutal and impactful. Bullets feel powerful, and NPC combat reactions are industry-leading. NPCs can bleed out, perform mercy kills on fallen comrades, and I even saw one cower in fear instead of fighting back when I approached with my weapon drawn. The system is at its best when you're given full control to utilize this game's incredible dynamicism. You see a train. You can approach on horseback, leap aboard, and take out any guards before looting what you can. By that point, lawmen have likely arrived, forcing you to fight your way out, steal a horse, and make a desperate escape across the countryside. The freedom to create these unscripted moments is what makes Red Dead Redemption 2's combat shine. But here's the problem. Rockstar almost never lets you play this way. The biggest issue with the combat system, Rockstar's reluctance to give you that same level of freedom during its story missions. Far too often, the main missions end up turning into a behind-cover shooting gallery or follow X NPC on horseback as you make an escape. And it doesn't matter whether I'm in a mansion or sitting in a hot air balloon hundreds of feet above the ground, when the entirety of the gameplay loop is lock on behind cover and fire. In combat, NPCs aren't the smartest, although they do have great reactivity. The way they react to certain player actions is incredible. Whether you're dirty, bloody, or have a weapon drawn, NPCs respond dynamically.
No! You can't shoot me! My wife is having a baby!
Yet in combat, they lack survival instinct, frequently charging the player in the open. And I have found they will miss shots more often when you are standing still, and then turn into Chris Kyle the moment you begin sprinting from cover to cover. The mission structure in Red Dead Redemption 2 is painfully restrictive. Small deviations from the intended path will almost always result in a mission failure screen. More variety in how objectives can be completed is something I'm really hoping Rockstar experiments with in future games. The open world already supports this level of freedom. The systems and mechanics are already there, yet the missions rarely take advantage of them. I understand Rockstar's focus is creating a cinematic, story-driven experience, and their structured mission design plays a role in that. I'm not saying they should abandon this formula entirely, but for a company that's always at the forefront of innovation, it's strange to see how little they've evolved in this area. There's only one mission that comes to mind when I think about the level of freedom I want to see more of in future games. It happens in Chapter 2 during the preparation for the train heist with John. Your task is to steal an oil wagon. Unlike most missions, the game gives you total control over how to approach it. You can walk straight into the refinery, take out a few guards, and hijack the wagon in broad daylight. Or you can wait until nightfall, sneak in under the cover of darkness, and take it quietly. You don't even have to go to the refinery at all. There are multiple wagons making trips across the map. You can set up an ambush, or chase one down and steal it on the move. Maybe things don't go as planned. The wagon explodes mid-escape, or you get spotted trying to stealth it, and the next thing you know, the wagon is hundreds of yards from the refinery. Now, things actually get interesting. Maybe you have to steal another wagon and ride it over to your target, jump out, and quickly make your escape before lawmen show up. This mission stands out because it takes full advantage of Red Dead Redemption 2's open world. It doesn't lock you into a linear sequence. It trusts the player to think creatively. But here's the problem. When this is the only mission in the entire game that offers this level of freedom, how many players even realize they have a choice? Most players are so conditioned by Rockstar's traditional mission design, they might not even think to experiment. And when the rest of the game trains you to follow a strict path, what's the point of offering freedom in just one mission? For the first 4 chapters, I usually overlook these issues, but Chapter 5 makes the absolutely heinous decision to pull you out of the open world, place you into the tropical hellhole of Guarma, put you in literal shackles, make you walk along a beach for essentially a 5-minute interactive cutscene, and then throw you into a series of mindless shooting galleries and a stealth section with enemies that have a Helen Keller level awareness stat. This section just feels so disconnected from the rest of the game. You can't really explore, there's no side missions, and you lose access to your horse and guns. And at this point, I just have a permanent save file just after Guarma, so I never have to play through this section again. Chapter 6 is extremely bleak from the opening cutscene. It's made clear that the gang is absolutely cooked, but so are Arthur's lungs. After the diagnosis, his face becomes gaunt. His weight drops drastically, and even his handwriting is affected. NPCs will comment on his sickly appearance, and after certain story moments, random coughing fits serve as a brutal reminder that his time is running out. But what's interesting is how this shift in the story actually makes me appreciate the open world even more. Understanding that Arthur's time is limited encourages players to slow down, to take in the world, and notice its detail. Rockstar never forces you to play as a good or a bad person, yet despite this freedom, many players find themselves naturally leaning towards high honor as the story progresses. It's quite a testament to the writing and narrative that many players change the way they approach the game based almost entirely on the story itself. The epilogue is well executed, but it's hard to ignore that Part 1 feels like a chore simulator, and in my opinion, it drags on a bit too long. That being said, the Epilogue still does an excellent job of bridging the gap between the two games. The shift from Arthur's story to John's feels natural, and it provides a sense of closure that makes the journey feel complete. And on what's likely my last playthrough for a long while, I thought it only fitting that during the game's final mission, I wore Arthur's hat as I hunted down Micah, a small tribute to the character who defined this incredible journey. The legacy of Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of excellence, a world so detailed, so immersive, that even after all of these hours, I'm still finding things I've never seen before. Although the online mode is a story of missed potential, the world, characters, and narrative make this a once-in-a-generation experience. 1,000 hours in a single game, a crazy statistic to think about. Yet, if this video performs well, I guess it was all worth it. If not, I'm absolutely cooked, so please, hit that like and subscribe button. I've spent so much time following around these random NPCs, I think I'm literally turning into one.
Hello.
Hello, once more. I never forget a face.
Aha.
Oh, hey, again.
Howdy.
You probably don't even remember me.
This video took a lot of work, multiple attempts at recording and re-recording, extra hours of getting the necessary footage, and a ton of time and effort. But I think the extra time spent cooking ended up leading to a better final product. So if you're still here at the end, I want to give a big thank you. This is probably my last playthrough of Red Dead 2 before the release of Grand Theft Auto 6. It's definitely time to move on. Up next is Days Gone, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next one.